Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to our 18th session of our OBS or our open or online Bible study. Our past lessons are now available in YouTube. Just type Brother Ronnie Cariaga. And I would like to thank you for sharing. Thank you so much mga kapatid. Thank you so much for posting it. Thank you so much for putting it and involving others. Thank you so much for using these videos in your Bible studies. Any way I could help, any way that you want me, this thing is going to be used, please do so. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa lahat ng mga kapatid natin, sa lahat ng mga nagbibigay ng mga mabubuting pananalita para sa inyong lingkod, sa mga encouragement po ninyo. Nagpapasalamat po ako. Sa mga kapatid kong nasa norte, pagyamanak unay apo, sa payla kumata ni apo iting mangtarabay kada kayo. Sa mga igsuon ako sa Mindanao, sa Visayas, daghan kayong salamat sa pag-share, daghan kayong salamat sa inyong paghatag o mga maayong pamulong para sa inyong igsuon. And I'd really like to do this in speaking in tongues in a lot of dialect and languages. I know my friend in the US will be saying, "Oh, I'm looking at Ronnie speaking in tongues again." Hi, Randy. Thank you so much also for allowing it posted in the church websites. Thank you so much. If there is a way that this ministry can be helped and can be fostered, then let me know. Thank you so much for being part of this ministry. Never thought that being in EZQ and being in quarantine, we could bind together, we could reach more people, we could do these things. Thank you so much. Indeed, God used curses into blessings. God turns our curses, if you consider that to be a curse, into blessings. Now, nasa pang-apat, and we are now in the fourth gospel. So, let's start before I could go on and talking on things. Let's start on the fourth gospel. Let us now take time to know more about John. The fourth gospel is very interesting. Absolutely different. Absolutely different from other gospels, from the synoptic gospels. According to some, it is the most intriguing account on the teaching of Jesus and the life of Jesus. He is absolutely different from the synoptics. Some say that theology from historical point of view were taken by the first three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Pakita nila yung pagkaunawa tungkol sa Diyos through history. Kaya in the Synoptic Gospels, we can find genealogy, we can find the birth, the boyhood, the temptation of Jesus, transfiguration, the choosing of the 12 or the appointing of the apostles, the ascension, and even the Great Commission. Which is, hindi mo matatagpuan kay John. Diba? Interesting. So that is theology from historical point of view. Itinuturo mo ang theolohiya, study about God, sa pamamagitan ng historical point of view. Kay John daw is history from theological point of view. That is interesting. Let's look at that. Okay? Theology from historical point of view is that Matthew talks about genealogy. When he opened it up, Mark started with the prophecy of Isaiah. This is what the prophet said. Luke started with saying, "I would like you, Theophilos, to know the certainty of things." Gusto niyong patunayan yung katiyakan ng mga bagay-bagay na natutunan, pinaniniwalaan ni Theophilos. Si John, very different ang approach niya. Kaya nga hindi siya synoptic. Kung yung synoptic is looking the same eye, si John is different. Si John, ang gagamitin niya is history from theological point of view. Magkabaliktad sila, no? Yung isa, theology, unahin niya from the historical point of view. Sa kanya naman is history, how things began from the viewpoint of God, from theological point of view. Interesting. Kaya nga, when you compare it, Matthew starts with genealogy, Mark starts with prophecy, Luke starts with certainty of things. Sa kanya, before everything, that is how John opens. John opens his gospel saying, in the beginning was. See that? Past tense. In the beginning was the Word. And then he challenges us. You, me. Talagang susubukan niya yung kakayahan natin. He will really challenge us, our thinking, our ideas. Either we accept that, the things that He's going to present, or we reject that. Kaya sabi ko, this one, nagbabago ng focus, and you could see that also even in my presentation. Nagbabago din ng focus, nagbabago talaga yung mood when you read the Gospels. John is a lot different. See, John would like to show to his readers the true nature of Jesus. The others will be saying, the Son of Man, the Son of Man, the Son of God. Kay John, diretsahan, God. God incarnate. For anything else, dandahanin natin, okay? Let's move on. I didn't forget because I got excited. It is really a challenging study. I would love that sana mahaba ang panahon natin, ano? Sana nasa sa isang classroom setting tayo wherein palitan tayo ng ideas. John chapter 1 pa lang, I think it would take us a long time in John chapter 1. But be that as it may, let's move on. Okay. Let's talk first about the writer. In the Gospels, hindi binanggit yung pangalan ni John, or hindi sinabing si John, the beloved, ang writer. Not history, tradition ang magsasabing it was John, the beloved, yung sumulat. So, what we know about him is that he's the brother of James, isa sa mga anak ni Zebedeo, one of the son of Zebedee, and that of Salome. They have this nickname na Boanerges. That means sons of thunder. Remember just last week's session natin when the Samaritans don't want to accept Jesus, and John, along with his brother James, even asked Jesus. He said, would you like us to call down fire from heaven and burn these Samaritans? Meron siyang ganon. Kita natin, impulsive din si John. In the writings, ang lagi niyang sinasabing, the disciple whom Jesus loved. I've got 13:23, 19:26, chapter 20, meron pa yan, 21, I think. Okay? And among all the 12 apostles, he was the last man standing. Ibig sabihin, namatay na ang lahat-lahat through martyrdom and through many things. Nauna nang pumanaw ang mga ibang apostoles. John remained hanggang sa kanyang old age. In 90 AD, he was exiled by Emperor Domitian to Patmos, where in Patmos he received his vision about Revelation. And in Patmos, if we could consider that also, but we will be dealing with that, he also wrote 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. But this was way back in Ephesus, I believe. And let me just get certain to that when I get there. But he wrote the book of Revelation at the close of the first century, AD. Siguro 90-95 AD. So he was the last man standing. The truth is, there was even a rumor that he will not taste death. And among all the apostles, si John lang believed to have died of natural death. Hindi kagaya kay Pedro na ibinitin siya at ipinako si Pedro ng patiwarik. Yung kanyang paa sa taas, yung kanyang ulo sa baba. Hindi kagaya kay Paul na he was clobbered to death. Ang ibang mga apostoles, pinugutan ng iba, talagang pinatay sila. Okay? So, mayroong rumor na sinasabing hindi siya mamamatay hanggang pagbalik. Kaya, ibibigay niya yan mamaya sa chapter 21, verse 23, yung tinatawag nating epilogue. And I believe really na yung chapter 21 na idagdag na lang. He was the youngest among the apostles. Approximately, ang sinasabi ng karamihan ay naging apostol siya o naging alagad siya ng Panginoong Jesus. Una siya naging alagad ni John. He was first a disciple of John at the age of 25. And then later on, when Jesus said, "Behold the Lamb of God," and we'll be taking that also in John. So, from a disciple of John, he became disciple of Jesus. There are two dates in the writing, just like the Synoptic Gospels. Okay? The early traditions put it to be around 60 to 90 AD. But many believe that it is in the later part. Okay? It was the last gospel written. So, if Matthew, Mark, and Luke wrote somewhere on those before AD 70, then if we will put the early traditions, John must have written it past 70 AD. Okay? And because of the epilogue, okay, we will be discussing chapter 21 also. I'm excited to be discussing epilogue chapter 21. But the second view is, recent scholar says, it could be in the early 50s or before AD 70. Ano yung mga arguments sa present ng mga recent scholars? Recent scholars thought that because he wrote independently, there it is, because John wrote independently, he must have written before Mark, or he must have, kaya early 50s, he must have written prior to Matthew and Mark, or before Luke, basta before the destruction of Jerusalem, before AD 70. Their basis is that the theology of the book of Romans, Epistles to Romans, wherein it was written, believed to be by Paul in AD 57, the theology of Romans and the theology of John, halos pareho, almost the same. And they're thinking, okay, that must be the parang yung trend nung time na yan. So they thought that he must have written that early. And then one more thing. In chapter 5 verse 2, this recent scholar said, when John wrote, he uses the term, there is a pool near the ship gate. Now, there was, meaning the pool was still there. If this was past 70 AD, it should have been there was. As a reaction to that, many other writers said, sometimes John writes, uses present tense when speaking of the past. So, this is just an answer to the there is chapter 5 verse 2 of John. Okay, let's move on. Among all other writers, if Luke says, most excellent Theophilus, for you to know the certainty of the things. John was more precise in writing the purpose of his book. In John chapter 20 verse 30 it says, "And truly Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in the book," or in this book, in this particular gospel, in the fourth gospel. Listen to this. "But these are written so that you might believe." There is the purpose of the book. He wrote it so that you may believe. I may believe. You might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you might have life in His name. Again, the term that you might believe or you may believe, for some again, they thought that is a present progressive. And they give that not just you may believe or you might believe, but these are written so that you may continue to believe. A present progressive, a continuing belief, continuing faith, continuing to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Having said that, let's move on. Central to the fourth gospel is the nature of Jesus Christ. And this really is beautifully written. Sa totoo lang po, napakaganda po ng presentation. Not unless somebody tinkered with your thinking. Not unless somebody tells you otherwise. When you read the first chapter of John, you will know the nature of Jesus. Bright as day. Wala pong talagang hindi mo ipagkakaila. Hindi mo po mapapahindian. Ang tunay na katauhan ng Panginoong Jesus, the true nature of Jesus is in John chapter 1. John the Beloved uses the word, that logos in Greek. And that logos has different meaning both for the Hebrew or the Jews and for the Greek. We will be discussing that when we get there. For John, when he presented Jesus' nature as the Word, John said the Word was God. When he presented, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," he is asserting that Jesus was God. Second, that Word became flesh. Undeniable. The Word that was with God became flesh. We'll be discussing that when we get to chapter 1. The second one is that when Jesus uses the seven I ams, nowhere in other gospels, nowhere in synoptics could you see the I am statements. The ego eimi statements that John uses reveals the true nature of Jesus. Look at this. "I am the bread of life," chapter 6. "I am the light of the world," chapter 8. "I am the door," chapter 10. "I am the good shepherd," chapter 10. "I am the resurrection and life," chapter 11. "I am the way, the truth, and the life," chapter 14, verse 6. "I am the true vine." Those things show us who Jesus is. In John's theology, he is saying, hey, either you accept Him to be the bread of life, either you accept Jesus to be the light of the world, either you accept Jesus to be the way, the truth, and the life, or you just reject that. See, John really writes very intriguing and very exciting, and you couldn't miss. He will make you decide. Pipilitin kanyang mag-isip. pipilitin kanya na gumawa ng desisyon. Totoo ba ang sinasabi ng isang John na ito o hindi? Kung totoo ang sinasabi niya, then you need to act. Kaya when you come to Nicodemus, when Jesus said, you must be born again, Nicodemus had this idea, how? And things like that, when you read the book, you will be in a threshold wherein you have to decide, believe it or reject it, accept it or reject it. And he will be doing a lot of that. The next one, the nature of Jesus. He uses the great I am. The I am that was used by Yahweh, by the YHWH, by Jehovah, in telling Moses who he is. And remember Moses and the burning bush? And after offering a lot of alibis, finally Moses said, when they ask me who sent me, what would I say? And the voice said, ego eimi, in Greek, I am. Not I was or I will, I am. The self-existing one, the ever-existent or existing one, I am. When Jesus talked about Abraham was, or who Abraham is, Jesus used the same word. That is why I am so confident in saying, somebody asked me, did Jesus claim to be God? And I said, yes, he did. By saying, I am. Before Abraham was, I am. He uses the ego eimi. He uses that great I am that only God used. And even those who heard him, when he said that, know that it was the word of God. It was used for God. So did Jesus claim to be God, the true nature of Jesus? He did. The great I am. One more thing. The true nature of Jesus. Jesus said, I and the Father are one. In so many ways. But when he claimed that, that was such a big claim. No one could claim that. The truth is, a lot of the Jews, see the reaction of the crowd? 10:30, 10:33. The crowd's reaction is that they are saying, that's blasphemy. You being a mere man claiming to be God. They know that. They know the implication of that. So either you accept what he claims, who he is, or just consider him. Was he lying? So, itong gagawin sa atin ni John. Okay. To give a glimpse of what we could have in John, let's read John chapter 1 down through 14. And we will end our first session on the book of John with this. Okay? So, I'll be reading from the ESV. Itong chapter 1, verses 1 down to 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world. The world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave them the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen His glory, glory as of the Holy Son, or the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Beautifully written, beautifully framed. Let's start just for the remaining time. When John started his gospel, he said, in the beginning. It re-echoes the OT, the Old Testament, the Torah. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. In the beginning, in the beginning. Or before the beginning was God. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It means God was there before the beginning, right? From Genesis 1:1. The same idea is present when John used NRK. In the beginning was the Word. Meaning the Word was there before the beginning. God was there before the beginning. And this Word was with God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, Word, God, with, and the Word was God. In the Genesis account, God uses the Word for creation. When God said, let there be light, and there was light, He uses the Word. This is interesting. In John chapter 1 verse 2, He was in the beginning with God. Putting emphasis on that Genesis 1:1. Meaning, He was distinct and separate being or entity from God, but He was part of the creation. He took part of the creation, not a created being, but a creator. Why? Because of this. All things were made through Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. Again, all things were made, other translations would use by Him, agency. Through Him, again, agency. It was, when we get to Philippians 2:4, it was for Him, by Him. He was in the creation. He was active. He was the Word. Look at this. In Him was life. Was. And the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Darkness may hide the truth, but eventually truth comes out. During our colonization, our great-great-grandfathers, our forefathers, for 400 years, were not able to listen to see these things. Hindi nila nakita to, hindi nila nabasa ito, ipinagbawal sa kanila na basahin ang mga bagay-bagay na ito. Tinakot tayo, sinabihan silang magkakaroon sila ng sira sa ulo, hindi nila maintindihan itong mga bagay-bagay na ito, ipinagbawal ang pagbabasa ng Biblia, and more. That is darkness overcoming the light. Pilit pinagtatakpan, for example, this is the light, pilit sinasakluman, sinasabi nila na hindi mo kailangang basahin yung Biblia, hindi mo kailangang intindihin yung Biblia. Yet the light shone, and darkness was not able to overcome it. Papasalamat tayo sa mga nagbukas ng kaisipan sa ating mga past na lessons. We would like to thank them, even those who translated it in different languages, from Greek to Latin, Jerome, to English. We thank them. To Filipino, Tagalog, Ilocano, Cebuano, Hiligaynon. Verse 6 talks about John. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. Indeed, John was not the light, and John accepted that. But he came to bear witness about the light, the true light which gives light to everyone was coming to the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him. Again, agency. The Creator came to his creation. The Creator came to this world. Yet the world did not know him, did not know that the Creator. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Again, choice. John is saying, see, those who rejected him and those who believe, accepted him, he gave them the right to become children of God. And that is a big issue in John. Being children of God, being children of Abraham. So the great challenge is being presented. Either you reject or you receive. And those who receive, he gave him the right. He gave them the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Re-echoes his conversation with Nicodemus. You must be born again. You must be born again. (14) And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. We will be ending it here. The Word became flesh. Let's go back to John chapter 1 verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The next one is that the Word was God. The third one, the Word became flesh, and the Word, according to John the writer, he made a dwelling, he tent. He lived among us. He dwelt among us. We have seen his glory. We were able to touch him, to hold him, to talk to him. If John will be speaking in phenomenology, he's got all the right to say that. And he said, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of the only Son from the Father. I believe he uses the term monogenes. Mono, one, genes, genes or genus. So one gene. What the Father was, the Word was. What God was or is, the Word is. So here's a challenge before we end it for our first session on John. Either you accept or reject Jesus' nature. For John, he was so certain. He said, "We have seen His glory." Mga kapatid, magpapasalamat po ako sa time natin. So by John, let me just finish this. Jesus is fully divine and Jesus is fully human. Fully divine in the sense that the Word was God, and fully human because the Word became flesh. That is the true nature of Jesus. And we will be discussing more of this in our next sessions. And again, I would like to thank all of you. I would love to deal more on this if given longer time. So, papasalamat po muli ako sa lahat-lahat ng mga kapatid na sumama sa atin ngayon. And dahil inaabot po tayo ng oras natin, I can't wait na i-discuss natin ang ibang mga bagay-bagay with John. Again, thank you so much. You're doing great. Thank you so much for partnering me in this ministry. Thank you so much for viewing it, sharing it. Please continue to do so. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for being part. Thank you so much for being partner in this online Bible study. God bless.